Hello everyone, this is Locke and I. Welcome to another special video on the Great Builds YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at my custom Ninja Combiner Mech, which you can see here in the middle of the recording studio area here. Now, I've also placed down the other two combo mechs that I've reviewed and compared, but if you haven't seen those videos yet, I highly recommend checking those out before looking at my combo mech, because I will be referencing parts throughout this video that are based off of each of the official combo mechs. So it's pretty easy. I'll have a video linked at the end of this video in the end screen that will show you both of the official mechs being compared with one another. So that'll be an easy way for you to get the gist of what's going on. Now, let's move in and talk about my personal combo mech design. Alright, so now that I've moved those two combo mechs out of the way, you might have realized this one is much smaller than both of the official combo mechs. And that's because I like to, long story short anyway, I like to do stop animation. In order to do that, I wanted to make my own custom characters for the LEGO city of Ninjago that I've been building, and therefore I wanted those characters to have cool vehicles. And after building and spending time with both of the official combo mechs, I decided to make my own just for fun. So, taking a look at this mech here, you can see that it's inspired based off of the same design preferences of some of the older and newer combo mechs, and I wanted to incorporate some designs I liked from each to make, ideally, the perfect looking and perfect stop animation version of a combo mech, although albeit it's a little bit finicky and it does break rather frequently in its current state, so it may receive modifications in the future just to be a little more sturdy. But I wanted to show this to you while the combo mech is relatively new still, so that people are still out there talking about it a bit. And this gives plenty of chances for me to upgrade it between now and said stop animations when the city is in a more completed state. Additionally, the characters you see in this video will all be featured in a separate video where I will go over all of the characters I've created thus far and their lore and the implications it holds for the stories that I'll make inside of the new city. So, without further ado, I'm actually going to take this mech apart into its major counterparts after discussing where those parts of the mech combine, and then we'll take a look at each of the different individual vehicles to showcase exactly what I took from each of the combo mechs. So, let's get to it. Started up here, the dragon connection point is to the front of the vehicle that's used for the body of the mech. These ratchet joints come out of the vehicle that connect to two different arm segments and a blaster mechanic that attach to some of the other vehicles. And you can split the mech down the waist with a Technic pin, which makes it very easy to get access to the bottom vehicle, which will turn into a separate vehicle altogether. So, now let me take them apart and showcase each section to you. Okay, so the first build we're taking a look at here is the Dragon build, which is attached to the top of the mech, very similar in fashion to the way that Ryu is attached to the back of the newer combo mech set. And this connects with a bar and clip connection system similar to that of the LEGO City Cars and new LEGO Dreams sets that released this year. And thus, it uses a very sturdy connection that does not like to lose its grip very easily, holding the entire dragon on one clip on the top of the vehicles of the entire mech. And of course, this dragon uses the color scheme of its associated character, because I wanted to go off the core combo mech, which used different colors for different sections of vehicles to reference each character. So, the main idea with this one is that it uses a lot of dark blue and black, but also uses white as an accent color, particularly on the stomach and on the insides of the legs and underside of the head here. Also, the eyes are made with glow-in-the-dark pieces, which you'll notice in some of my upcoming builds. I love using glow-in-the-dark pieces. They're my favorite color to use because who doesn't love a build that just changes and has glowing pieces overnight, which is just really cool. Additionally, you'll see that the head is brick built. I used a couple of printed pieces I got from some LEGO Marvel sets because, believe it or not, Thanos uses gold printing on some of the dark blue pieces, which works perfectly for armor on this dragon here. You can also see that he's got these cool horns that I got from some of my duplicate copies of Cull's Earth Dragon, which looks good without the tail anyway because you're not going to see it on the dragon wall that often. So it'll make sense to have him over there. but used the horns on this dragon, which are attached in a unique way using some of the Marvel minifigure accessory attachment pieces, or Power Blast pieces, which is interesting because they get a good angle, but they don't take up too much space. Additionally, the mech is connected on a rigid joint here, and it also connects to the body on a set of Mixel ball joints. I was going to say one ball joint, but I had to use two because in order to keep this thing sturdy when it's on the back of the mech, I had to make it so the mech has very limited motion. And I feel like Lego, if they were in this situation, would do the exact same thing, so that's pretty much what I did here. Additionally, you can see the body is very thin and brick built, but has all the different like slopes and stuff on the side to keep it pretty good with textures. There are 2 legs and 2 wings, making this a wyvern-style dragon, and the feet can actually hold the entire weight of this entire dragon up without having any other body parts touching the ground. There's also a very short, stubby tail with trans purple on it, which is another color that will relate to this character's color scheme, and the main reason for having a short tail is because it will work better when it's in mech form. Additionally, I use these 2 wings from the Lego Batman sets, and I use them mainly because with these stud shooters that you'll see here, you kind of have the motion kind of limited and you don't really want to do brick-built wings because that would be too heavy. So these wings worked really well in this section, and for the saddle, it's mostly gold pieces and just leaves room for 2 stud shooters that can be moved up and down. And of course, I won't be using these in stop animation or for actual play, but I just feel like it feels more like a Lego build that Lego would have done if they had stud shooters for play features on it, so it's kind of there just for the silly gag that Lego always adds stud shooters to builds even when they probably don't need them. So that's this build, but let's move on to the next build. Alright, so here we have the arms of the build for the mech, and that's something that I'm going to be doing for these next vehicles. I'm going to leave them pretty much in their unaltered state at first, to discuss how they combine to make their official vehicle work, and then we'll take a look at the actual combined vehicle when it's on its own. So here you can see we've taken the blue bit with silver pieces that was originally on the leg of the Combo Mech and put it here as like a battery or storage compartment, and this character is themed after the color scheme of silver, black, and transparent light blue. Basically, this character is from the world of Chima, so it's very animalistic in design, looking like there's claws on the front and the back, and uses some Chima weapons here and there. Now, if you don't know why I'm incorporating Chima stuff into a Ninjago build, or this build in general, then I will explain that in the future when I cover the actual characters and their lore, so stay tuned for that. But the entire vehicle splits in 2. We have a section with 3 wheels in the front on this one, and 2 wheels on the other section there. And they actually combine using ball socket joints, like the Mixel joint pieces here. And this is very difficult to do on camera, so I'm going to combine these together, and then we're going to take a look at the vehicle when it's combined. So here we have this vehicle now that it's completed, and you can kind of see that this is pretty much just a car, but it has 5 wheels instead of 4 since there's 3 at the front. The 3 wheels at the front was mainly supposed to make it look cooler when it's in mech form, make it look like it has more fingers on that hand, but in the vehicle form it's pretty cool too. But the one downside to this was I designed this on a 3-stud wide basis, and therefore it is the most fragile part of the build, hence why I didn't want to combine it on camera because this thing breaks frequently. However, it does look really cool, and it fits within the scale of a Lego city, which is kind of the whole goal with the rest of these vehicles that we'll take a look at in the mech as we go through the parts. And that's because if I'm doing stop animation in my city, I want the vehicles to feel like they fit within the city and not like take over the city unless they're kind of vehicles designed to do that. So here you can just see it like this. No part of the vehicle here will touch the ground. And you can see that the character that was once lying back in the mech form is now able to sit straight up with the windshield adjusting as well. So overall, I had a lot of fun with this. It was a lot of fun to play with a lot of silver pieces because I don't do that often. Silver pieces are not something that you usually build with too often as a main color, but they work really well here. So that's just all I've got to say for this vehicle, but let's move on to the vehicle that was used for the legs of the mech. So here we go with the next section. This is what the legs and the blaster on the arm were for the mech. And I've already started combining this with just changing where these little blasters are, these little sound speaker blasters, because this is meant to be a sound-based vehicle for its element. And it'll be very clear when you take a look at the actual character and their design that I went for later on in the upcoming video. But you could keep these at the side if you want. They kind of apply as like a work belt when they're on the actual mech. But when they're on this vehicle, they can be used as speakers, or you could just keep them attached to the side. Additionally, you'll see the front here with the feet, they've been folded down, and that's because the feet can actually fold into the side for each vehicle side here. And that's something that's pretty amazing, because when you clip the legs together, you get this kind of like weird tank-looking vehicle. Now, this goes along with what I said about vehicles on road plates. A tank in this setting, of course, would take up more than just one lane of road, because it's a larger vehicle. So therefore, I'm allotting this to use up to the 16 stud limit for this entire base vehicle. But you can see here that it doesn't even take up half of this base plate here. So therefore, it still fits in with the scale pretty well. Additionally, we have this giant sound blast featured like cannon here. And of course, that can be clipped on to the leg section there. And this creates a really cool tank look. I had a lot of fun with this. This was mostly inspired by the build for Zane's Ice tank being used as the legs on the original core mech. However, the connection of the legs to the center of the waist here is more like Pixel's Samurai X car from the newer Ninja Combo Mech, that Zane's Ultra Combiner Mech. So I kind of used some techniques from both, and I also used the technique of using the rubber from these treads here as stability for the feet when it's in the actual foot motion for the mech, because on the newer Combo Mech, they used some good use of tires, and that gave me the idea that maybe rubber is a good idea for stability on mechs. And yeah, it really does work. Additionally, you can see that in the middle of the front here, there's some more lights or sound blast pieces you could use there. And I tried to cover up the ratchet joints used for all the connection points on this vehicle as much as possible. And I'd say I did a pretty good job. They're hardly visible from most angles. And of course, there's room for one minifigure to sit in here. Now, it's pretty easy to remove them. I didn't want to do too many studs, but it's just a pretty cool vehicle idea all around. And I had a lot of fun with this. But the biggest problem with this was you had to make it so that it was focused on stability and less on the design of the vehicle. Like, a lot of this is focused on stability. That's why there's big ratchet joints instead of mixel joints, and big treads for the vehicle instead of just two wheels on each side. So, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's a cool tank design that kind of pays homage to the original core mech that connects to the main vehicle with a Technic pin in the back here that could also be used as exhaust, I guess. So, it's a fun vehicle overall. But now let's go to my favorite vehicle out of all the vehicles in this combo mech, and that's the one that my character gets to drive. And so here we have the main build for the combo mech. This is the torso of the mech with the shoulders, and we'll take a look at where those are stored in a minute. But this vehicle is loosely inspired by the VW Buzz, and it has a couple of changes that I've made because there has to be room for all the connection points, but it also is in my channel's colors, indicating that this would indeed be the vehicle I would be driving in this scenario. And of course, it has glow-in-the-dark lights in the front because I love glow-in-the-dark lights, but you can really see what types of connections we're using here. Like in the front, we have the Lego City connection that they've been using to connect like fronts and backs to cars, that they're now using Lego Dreams as well. So we have those being used for the front. That connects to the dragon. These sides connect to the shoulder joints, and thank goodness these pieces exist, because I don't know how I would have done this build without them. Needless to say, they cover very minimal space, but they still have the ratchet joint connection, and that's what matters. Additionally, at the back we have a single Technic pin, and that connects to where the waist and the legs are. Now, additionally to that, you'll notice the shoulder joints aren't here, and that's one of the fun things that I was able to do with this. It took a little bit of time to build the vehicle to make it work, but if I take this part and these two roof tiles here off, they come off pretty easily, then you can look up in there and see that both of those like shoulder joint connectors fit in the back of the vehicle with the character. Now I'll explain what this suit is in the next video, where I go over all of the different characters and what their powers and lore is. So just know that this is an alternate variety of Lakanai in his new mech suit attire, I guess you could say. But I love the fact that I was able to find tiles that covered over the top perfectly like this, because it's very difficult to get this to be sturdy enough to work with the ratchet joints on the sides. But overall, I think this is a good section of the vehicle. I enjoyed building this one the most, probably because it was something that was inspired by a real-life vehicle, and I like doing that once in a while. So now I'm going to put this mech back together, and we're going to round out the thoughts of what I did for this mech and some suggestions if you wanted to try this challenge for yourself. So let's go. So overall, what did I think of this experience of trying to build my own combo mech? Well, LEGO does it better than I do, and that's probably for the best, because their sets are much better designed, and they had more time to plan theirs out, as opposed to me, who got this done in about, like, 3 weeks, maybe 4 if we're pushing it. So, you know, it's something that you kind of have to look into. Do you have the time and energy to put your design process towards this? Additionally, some pointers that I'd like you to try doing if you do try this: pick your joints properly. The arm joints holding on to the LEGO Chima vehicle are not strong by any means, and therefore it takes a while to get them to pose in the right way, and you may have to replace ball joints over time with this because they can lose friction if they're constantly put under stress positions like this. But I would recommend to use combinations like the head to the body of this, the dragon head here, because that clip connection system is powerful. Only one clip from that dragon's head that goes down into that little joint there is actually holding the entire dragon on the back of this mech, and that's insane. And additionally, the Technic joint that I've used for the waist is also pretty good, so would recommend that. In terms of the ratchet joints, those are always a good option. Just remember, you got to make the build super sturdy around them, because they do tend to have a little bit of resistance to being moved for each click. Now, one final thing I would recommend that everyone do with their builds, if they do this, or any mech in general: use rubber parts for the feet. I can't tell you how much of an amazing improvement it is to have rubber on the tires and the treads in this mech, and the tires on the new combo mech they released, because that makes it so much easier to pose things, because the rubber has more friction with the ground than the plastic does. So it's very much something I would recommend people doing. And because of that, it's, of course, something that you have to take into account when building mechs, I guess, now, is that it's definitely going to work better if you have rubber holding your mech down to the ground. Now, I won't be posting instructions for this. I don't typically do that for all of my builds. The whole point of these videos of me showcasing MOCs is that I want you to be creative. You, the viewer, have the ability to make some great things out of LEGO, and this is the way to do it. You just gotta look at other people's builds for inspiration and then go off to build your own thing. So that's what this whole video series of MOC reviews is about. However, I would recommend, if you haven't built one of the official LEGO Combiner Mechs first, I would recommend you do that first, because I learned a lot after building the original mechs from LEGO to build this one. A lot of the things that I've learned helped me make this stable and helped me make it look good. So I would recommend you take a look at my comparison review if you haven't already, but also to take a look at maybe purchasing one of them. I mean, they both retailed for $100 at their prime, but you could even find used versions of them on the aftermarket for cheaper than that if you don't want to spend that money. So overall, I do think this is definitely a very, very good idea, and I enjoyed this, and I will be using this in stop animation projects in the future. Now, if you're interested in any of the characters that I've been using here in this stop animation series that I keep talking about, then I'm going to be doing a video next time where I talk about these characters a little bit, so that way when I do the actual stop animations when the city's more completed, it's not going to be like, oh no, he's bringing characters out of nowhere. What did I miss? No, you'll know about the characters and stuff full hand. It's kind of like movie teasers in that way. But stay tuned for that, along with some more city reviews and some more set reviews and set comparisons and more MOC reviews here on the YouTube channel. and I hope you all have a great day.